Let's make a super cheap pedal board. This is IkeGuitar. Let's dive in. What's going on, guys? IkeGuitar here, and on today's video, we're talking all about making a budget pedal board. Now, if you guys are guitarists like me, you know that guitar playing is a big money pit. And like any good money pit, you can get some really nice gear, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. But have no fear, there are plenty of budget options to make a pedal board that's going to fit your lifestyle. And we're going to go through a couple of tips and tricks, as well as some products that'll help you guys do just that. So to begin, I'm assuming that you guys already have a guitar and an amplifier, okay? We are strictly going over just the pedal board build today, but if you guys do need recommendations for a decent guitar and a decent amplifier, I do recommend the Squier Affinity series. I've got a Squier Affinity Telecaster that sounds incredible, and for $200 you really can't beat it. And then also, I recommend for anyone going for their first amplifier, honestly, you're going to want to spend more money on your amp. And we can get into details about that in a later episode, but essentially, I would go with an all-tube amp, or I would go with a decent Fender style amplifier in solid state. That's going to be your best bet for your pedal board build. Now, I bring all this up because Fender amps are always going to have reverb on it, and maybe even tremolo. And so practically every amp you buy in this world is going to have reverb. So believe it or not, we are not going to use reverb on our budget pedal board. It's just too expensive. And finding good reverbs for a decent price, it's very, very difficult. And so if you guys are hoping that I'd offer you guys a nice reverb for the money, you're not going to find a decent reverb in a budget style format. If you are going to buy a reverb, I recommend the Hall of Fame by TC Electronic. It's got a bunch of different styles of reverb, but for all intents and purposes, you're going to be just fine with the spring reverb on your amplifier. Now, the first crucial pedal to any budget pedal board is, of course, a tuner. You know it, you love it, the tuner. Tuners and volume pedals are kind of like the pedals you don't want to get, but you have to, but you always get them last because you don't want to spend the extra money. Because who wants to spend $120 on a volume pedal? But let me tell you, unlike a volume pedal, you do want a tuner pedal. So one thing I recommend, of course, is a Boss tuner. Now, why Boss? Because Boss pedals always have active buffers. And that's really good because essentially when you're running guitar cable, even in a pedal board, through the rig, through your actual amp, and so on and so forth, you actually lose a little bit of high end going through your instrument. And a buffer pedal is going to help you reduce the amount of high end that you lose. So for the most pure tone, I recommend a buffered pedal. And this Boss tuner pedal is perfect. It's the first one in your chain, so when your input goes in, you're immediately getting buffered to the best tone you can, and they're really plentiful. You can find these suckers for like $50 on Craigslist on Reverb. If you guys want more details on finding a great pedal or guitar on the budget, you can check out how to buy gear in this link right here. Now that we've got the necessary evil of the tuner out of the way, let me just say that we're not going to be using a volume pedal. I know you're so surprised. Gasp, why not a volume pedal? Why? Because volume pedals are freaking expensive. They cost like $120, sometimes even more, and they don't really diminish in value on the market. You know what you do have, though? You have a volume knob. Yes, your guitar has a volume knob. You can save a bunch of money if you just learn to use your hands instead of your feet. I know, mind-blowing stuff right here. The next pedal I'd recommend you guys getting is a boost pedal, but not just any boost. You see, boosts, they're kind of like, boosts are what everybody makes because it's easy money and they're not hard to manufacture. So why not make one yourself? Yes, I'm talking about a homemade, homegrown boost pedal. Yes, fellows, you thought you were just going to spend a bunch of money and get decent product? No, if you want a budget pedal board at a decent price, you're going to have to make some things yourself. And this is a boost circuit. Now, boost circuits are pretty much the easiest circuit to make if you're making pedals for the first time. You can buy boost kits online, but if you go to StewMac, you can find a decent boost kit for $75 or so, or you can go and buy all the individual components yourself and find a schematic online and build it for $50 or less. And so I'd recommend you guys finding yourself a boost pedal. We're not going to be using a compressor today. That's way too bougie for our pedal board, but this boost pedal goes a long way. And for $50, you can't beat it, even if it looks kind of jank. And if you want to go really special, you can try to powder coat it yourself or just draw some Sharpie on it because you're emo like that. All right, so now we've got our boost pedal. We need to go into some overdrive. Now, I would recommend always a TS-808 style circuit, the Tube Screamer circuit. Tube Screamers are really, really great. They're really versatile, and you can get a lot of tone out of a Tube Screamer. And there's not a Tube Screamer I would recommend that's a boutique model. Tube Screamers can get really expensive, and of course people have opinions on whether vintage sounds as good as modern. But you know what does sound good? Really cheap stuff. And that's why I've got the Behringer Vintage Tube Overdrive. For $28, you've got incredible tone. This TS-808 style circuit sounds just like any modern Ibanez Tube Screamer. And for a fourth of the cost, that's a no-brainer. Yes, they're in a plastic composure, but you clicked on this video for a budget pedal board. So what are you complaining about? So technically, if you get really deep down in the weeds, that's all you really need for a good pedal board. You just have your volume pot, a reverb on your amp, you've got a tuner, a boost, and an overdrive. But some of you guys are like, I want more options. I want the ability to go high gain. I want to sound really gnarly. What I'd recommend for you high gain schmucks out there is going to be this Behringer Super Fuzz. 28 bucks gets you incredible fuzz tone. Now, there's a caveat to getting a fuzz. I wouldn't recommend placing a buffer before the fuzz. There's a lot of reasons why you do that. Putting a buffered pedal before a fuzz can make it sound really jank. So I don't recommend doing that, but thankfully this Boss tuner does have a bypass option, so you can go direct out from the guitar into the bypass, or you can just put the fuzz before the tuner pedal. I mean, it just depends on your preference, but if you're going to use a fuzz, don't put a buffered pedal before it. Now we're on to time-based effects, and time-based effects are really special. You don't really need a delay. You've got your reverb covered by your amplifier. Why would you need delay? But I know for a lot of people, delay is kind of like, I must have delay. And if you are going to get delay, that's fine. Just make sure you get a buffered delay. Now I say buffered delay because you're not using an out buffer on your rig, and so getting a Boss style delay is really going to help you guys. Now as far as delays go, I recommend getting a buffered delay. I recommend getting the Boss Wazacraft delay. They have a Bucket Brigade style delay that sounds really great, and if you are a first timer to delay, Bucket Brigade is the way to go. You're not going to get a lot of options on a budget with a delay pedal, okay? You're not going to get tap tempo. You're not going to get multiple different kinds of delay. If you are going to buy delay, get a Bucket Brigade. It's the most versatile, and it'll be the most helpful to you guys as you make music. But let's not forget the fun stuff, okay? Everyone loves a good chorus, and I'll tell you what, chorus is one of my favorite effects. The 80s were slathered in chorus, reverb and chorus sandwiches for days in the 80s, and nothing gets the chorus bug in me going quite like this Behringer UC200. Yes, we're back to Behringer. You can't beat 28 bucks for an incredible pedal, okay? This Behringer style pedal sounds incredible. Great chorus. It's gonna make you sound just like your favorite 80s hairband without all the metal. Of course, if you want more metal, you can buy a nice Boss Metal Zone, but who wants to do that? All right, now that we've gone through pedals, let's talk about the actual pedal board. Pedal boards are obnoxiously expensive, like the actual physical pedal board. You could buy, one of those weird stainless steel aluminum doohickey thingies for like hundreds of dollars, but why do that when you can make it yourself? Yes, I'm telling you to make your own pedal board. Because I'm so savvy, I made a pedal board for myself. Yes, I made it. This is like reclaimed. It's not even reclaimed. This is like IKEA wood I got for like $25. Took it to a local carpenter that I knew. You can take it to your friend who has a table saw and just cut them to length. And I've got a really nice pedal board right here. I've got little feet on it. It looks really nice. And all it cost me was like $23, maybe even less. Thank you, IKEA. The sweets are great for some things, including cheap pedal boards like this. Grab you some Velcro, slap it on. These things fold in off of these screws here, and it can fit into a small vintage suitcase you can buy at Goodwill or an antique shop. It's really quite versatile. I recommend anyone making their own pedal board. Now, as far as cabling is concerned, I recommend getting some pre-soldered patch cables. They kind of look like this. It depends whether you want the right angle plugs. These are actually flat, so they fit a little bit better. They're a bit more economic on my pedal board. These things are going to be expensive. There's just no doubt about that. I wouldn't go cheap on cables. I wouldn't get super top of the line either. These are just fine. You can buy these from, Amazon. They're pretty much low capacitance audio blast cables, and they're oxygen free inside, okay? So that's really important. And just get some basic of these cables. A lot of people really like the solder free cables, and I will say solder free cables are really nice. I have them on my pedal board, and the only caveat is you have to build them yourself. And if you don't do it right, you could royally screw yourself up if you don't know how to make the cable correctly. So do yourself a favor and don't buy the expensive solder-free cables. Buy yourself a nice budget right angle cable to be used on your pedal board. You'll thank yourself later for not spending hundreds of dollars making cables that break really, really often. All right, so as far as power is concerned, power is probably the most important part of your pedal board. If you can have anything high-end on your pedal board, I'd recommend power. And that's the sad part, because you don't see the power. Typically, power is mounted underneath the pedal board, and you're going to have to spend a bunch of money to get a decent power supply. And that's just the way things are. I'm really sorry. Most stuff you're going to buy, you're not even going to see. Tuners and power supplies aren't pretty, but we all need them. Now, you can get away with a basic wall plug style power cable. This is from Strymon. I bought some boutique pedals and they sent me these really crappy, like they just fell apart in my hand, but they pass 9-volt power. I'm not going to complain about them. Now, depending on how many pedals you've got in your rig, you're going to have to determine the size of your power supply. But it's really important that your power supply is individually isolated. It is very, very tempting to go with the very, very cheap MXR style power supplies, but they're not isolated. They all draw from the same source. And why is it important to have individually isolated power outputs? Because you could introduce a lot of hum, and it's not fun. Don't do that to yourself. Spend the extra money and go buy a nice isolated power supply. If you only have 3 or 4 pedals, you're not going to need a huge power supply. But I definitely would not recommend using 9-volt batteries. That is not something you want to do. The worst thing you want in your signal chain is to have a battery go out on a pedal. Every one of those Behringers has the ability to use 9-volt power. It's just not worth it, not when you're playing shows or trying to get better at music. And the thing about 9 volts is that as the 9 volts die, you begin to increase the amount of power sag into your signal chain. And essentially, it'll create this weird compressed sound, and the pedal won't sound the same than if it had a fresh power supply. Now, if you want a quick and dirty method, if you have an extra 9-volt adapters lying around, you can plug them into a power strip and use them. They're technically isolated. But that, my friends, is a mess. And you're much better than that. You are a clean musician. You want Instagram-worthy budget pedal boards. You don't want this trailer trash you pulled up into your local club and you have to drag a bunch of cables with you to get your stuff powered up. That's the honest truth. So that is all you really need to get a decent pedal board on the budget. Looking at my stuff right there, I can safely say my pedal board costs less than $200. And that, my friends, is a deep down and dirty budget pedal board. However, if you really want to go the next mile and really upgrade your sound from past the 200, I would recommend getting a decent delay and a decent reverb pedal. We've discussed that. If you cannot stand learning how to use the volume knob on your guitar, then yes, get a volume pedal, but you really don't need one. You might want a volume pedal after your delay effects or before your delay effects so you can swell in and out your delay sounds, but that's only if you want to go the extra mile. The quick and dirty, all you really need is a drive, a reverb from your amp, and a tuner pedal. That is the bare bones minimum, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that. Now, one thing I do recommend for you guys buying pedals, there is such thing as gas. I am a proponent of gas. I have gas. It is the worst ever. My wife will tell you, look at all my guitars. Look at all the stuff on my wall. Like, I have so much crap. Now, that is really important to state because gas can affect you too, even the young musicians. And though gas will be with you a long time, it is incredible what you can get out of just a little bit. And I've harped on this on the channel a lot, but only get what you need. Every pedal I receive, and I have a lot of pedals, guys, even these janky ones, even these boost pedals, I spend a minimum of 3 to 4 hours getting to know the ins and outs of every pedal. Now, I know, sacrilege, but let me just say that knowing the ins and outs of my pedal is kind of like getting the most out of your money when you buy a video game or anything else, right? So if you ever buy a pedal, okay, spend a great amount of time with it before you decide whether you actually want it or not. Gear may go, but the experience you had with the pedal will always be there. And of course, get the most out of your money. If you're going to spend a crap ton of money buying an extra delay pedal or buying an extra pedal board, at least use it more than once or twice. I mean, I see people buy these Strymon pedals, $400 a piece, okay? They have this and that and the whole kitchen sink along with it, but they only ever use like 2 presets, and that to me is a waste of time. Why would you spend $400 on a pedal if you don't use at least 80% of it? If you're only going to use like 20% of the pedal, just sell it and get a different one. You know what I'm saying? Guys, thank you so much for watching this video on how to build a budget pedal board. If you like this video, please consider subscribing down below. I can only do this with your subscribership, and of course, I love you guys. I'm trying to make a career of this, so help a brother out, would you? Anyway, if you like this video, please comment some pedals you might want to see on a future pedal board video. It could be a middle-of-the-range budget pedal board. You never know. And of course, hit me up at Instagram at IkeGuitar. I will respond to all of your DMs there. If you have any questions about gear or you want to recommend a video topic for me to give you guys, please hit me up there. I want to know more about you, and you can hear more about me at Instagram. Go to your nearest Sweetwater rep and ask him for some Behringer pedals. They're really great. Better get them now because the impending fame of this video might make them sell out, and we don't want that. So be sure to go to Sweetwater, grab those pedals. I'll post some links down below for your edification. And of course, have a great day. We'll see you guys later, and good luck in your budget pedal board.